Thank you, Sir Al-Arabi Bil-Arabi. To call on stage for panel number 2, which is titled The Development of Entrepreneurship in Morocco, Success Stories and Lessons Learned. The moderator of this panel, CHAFIK SABIRY, from CDG. And I'd like also to call Mr. Karl STANZICK, Mr. ADEL MOKHTARI, Mr. Kamal REGGAD, Mr. Youssef AOUFIR. The original program planned for C. Abdeslam Ahizun and Mr. Mohammed Al-Kattani of Tijari Wafa to be with us. I'm sure you'll all understand that they have many other things to do in this very busy day. But this gives us an extra opportunity to have more discussions with these young entrepreneurs. The floor is yours, C. Sabiri. Thank you.
Bonjour tout le monde.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much indeed for giving me the floor. I have the honor to have a panel that shows that there is entrepreneurship in Morocco and success. We have never talked as much about entrepreneurship in Morocco. We talk and we see things achieved with the GES as a result, as an outcome, and this is something extraordinary because its objective is to inspire. And the question that could be asked is do we have entrepreneurship in Morocco? And in this case, is there a model for entrepreneurs in Morocco? And to the Moroccan entrepreneurs, do they have qualities that make of them a model? Apart from the different successes of the entrepreneurs we have with us here, we will try to see how we can push it a bit forward and make of Morocco the Silicon Valley of Africa as we wish it to be. The first question then is, and I'm going to ask Mr. AOUFIR to react to this first question. Do you think there is a typical entrepreneur in Morocco? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank Al-Akhawan University for inviting me. I had the opportunity to be part of the people who worked in the construction of the university, and then I worked at the university. So it's my honor and pleasure to participate in this panel. Is there a model of entrepreneurs in Morocco? I believe that there is no exact or typical model. That there are different experiences, different achievements, different maturities. Other people spoke and said that we are not born entrepreneurs. I was not born entrepreneur. I worked during long years in different companies and in big structures and also at the Al-Akhawan University. So I was not born an entrepreneur. I developed and built myself and developed the desire. And when you have to make a choice to continue your career one way or another, you have to make decisions. And my own, relating to my project, there was a project because there was an ambition and the opportunity to write a successful story of a Moroccan company. And if you give me a few minutes, I can talk about the story of Intelcia. So, Intelcia, for those who do not know it, Intelcia is the Moroccan leader in outsourcing and offshoring. It's the young company, which started its own development in 2006 and then moved from 200 people to more than 500. It's an international company today because we are present in Morocco and France. We work with big brands, so we work with Google, Orange, SFR, Canal+, And we managed to develop ourselves in a logic of north-south. So we started in Morocco, we were 250. Today we are 3,600, 1,000 in France. So we were the first company in Morocco to acquire in France, to do the things the other way around. So we developed first in Europe and then come to open representations in Morocco. So it took us 6 years to create a good example based on values and a genuine project and ambitions to be the first actor and player in this domain, and also continue to develop, to go towards new market, and also help the Moroccan strategy for development in Africa, and go towards these new markets to diversify our linguistic abilities and capacities, and also help motivate other Moroccans to succeed. So this is a company which is purely Moroccan, and its turnover is very important, and it has 4,000 employees, as known in the world, and will continue to work. Thank you, Mr. AOUFIR. I would like to say hello to Mr. Sishahar, and I would like to ask Mr. Bartal to join us. Thank you. The same question, but this time to the bankers. So what is your answer, Mr. Shahar? Through your experience, have you been able to notice a typical profile of a Moroccan entrepreneur? Maybe I will say that I do not question the educational system in Morocco, because I believe Moroccans have the virus of entrepreneurship, and this is a good thing. The problem is in the way we assist them, we work with them. When a young people from the countryside or city centers has an idea and has received a training and wants to create a company, but we do not have ways and means to assist him. So the problem is not in his will, but in the environment. So we need to create associations like Casa Mubadara, but we do not have anything that is institutionalized and professional that will deal with the creators of jobs before, during and after the project. Mr. Bartal? Sorry, I don't hear the gentleman and I cannot translate.
Le risque, c'est quelque chose qui est recherché par un capital risque. Donc ça, c'est un point très important. Et effectivement, malheureusement, moi je veux aller plus loin que ce que dit mon collègue, c'est que trop de dossiers intéressants, prometteurs, qui viennent dans le réseau bancaire et qui malheureusement soit restent dans les tiroirs, soit vont dans les poubelles. Pourquoi? Parce que premièrement, notre conseiller au niveau de l'agence n'est pas formé, n'est même pas sollicité pour qu'il intervienne au niveau de ces dossiers-là. Mais ça, on ne devrait pas s'arrêter là. Nous, en tant que banquiers, nous devons améliorer ça. Et sensibiliser notre réseau de conseillers commerciaux au niveau de tout le réseau de banques, qu'un dossier non bancable n'est pas forcément jetable. C'est un dossier sur lequel je peux prendre mon téléphone, appeler justement un réseau confrère, d'accompagnateurs. Il y a des associations aujourd'hui de plus en plus importantes, et c'est un très bon signe au Maroc. Il y en a une dizaine, une bonne dizaine qui ne sont pas connues, qui en font de l'accompagnement, du coaching, des mentoring. Parfois même, ils donnent des prêts d'honneur pour avancer. Le temps que d'abord que le dossier devient bancable, qu'il y ait suffisamment de capitaux propres, et ensuite le temps que le porteur de l'idée, qui n'est même pas encore projet, prenne forme, devienne projet, ensuite se traduit par un business plan, ensuite il peut revenir à la banque et rentrer en relation. Ça, c'est un élément fondamental, je pense, que le réseau bancaire, mais aussi le tissu associatif, monsieur le ministre tout à l'heure a très bien dit, qu'il y a beaucoup de choses qui se font au niveau du gouvernement, au niveau de l'État, au niveau des associations, au niveau même des banques. Nous-mêmes, nous sommes partenaires pratiquement de tout, mais que cette conjonction, cette synergie, cette connaissance mutuelle et cette interaction entre les différents intervenants ne se fait pas de façon optimale. Et sur ça, on ne veut...
Optimally, so that's why we need to work together. If I understand you very well, your experience shows that there's a profile of a Moroccan entrepreneur, there's ambition and initiatives, however, in a number of sectors that we will be dealing with, but there are improvements to be conducted, to be done. So this corresponds probably to the vision of Mr. Mokhtari. Today, can you, through your success, you are the best, have been elected the best entrepreneur in Morocco, so you were a success, and you're a model for many entrepreneurs. Can you tell us about your experience and talk about some of the limitations that were kind of obstacles for you so that the audience can benefit from this? I would like first to thank you for all these nice things you say about me, though we still have lots of work ahead of us. I would like, if you allow me, to answer your first question, the profile of the entrepreneur. Here, we are a panel with the entrepreneurs, but we are of the same kind of entrepreneurs. This is what we would like to have and develop in our countries. Unfortunately, we have the hidden side of entrepreneurship that we do not deal with in meetings like this, and we would like to start a debate about this. You have this second kind of entrepreneurship. That's the opportunists. What is this? It's when we fail, we have an opportunity and we seize it. So it's the young individual has a market, so, or a member of his family, a relative who can help him, and then he creates his own company and then says, I'm an entrepreneur. Of course, he's not a real entrepreneur. So this is not a company. The third kind of entrepreneurship, which unfortunately is the majority of the country, that's the entrepreneurship of necessity. I can't find a job in the private sector, the public sector, so I will create a company. And if we do not do this segmenting and we do not process these segments, we end up finding ourselves in a situation where we have young people who think they are entrepreneurs when they are not. So they don't have the tools, the mechanisms, and the regulations, and they don't have the finances. So to come back to the case concerning us today, in my case, I believe this is the same with other entrepreneurs who think they're entrepreneurs in their spirit. This is something I knew very early, and I started early after a small experience with my colleague here, so we started to work together. I am a serial entrepreneur. It's my fourth company now with success and failure. And the weight of these failures is very difficult to accept in our society. And I believe that here again we need to understand that the profile of an entrepreneur, if the combination of two aspects, what are the factors of success, but also how we manage failure and how we react and we transform it into an opportunity. In my career, I launched my first company. It was very difficult. It was about new technologies, but after 2 years, I was able to develop it, and I was able to find an investor to develop this activity. So for me, it was a success. And I thought that this experience could be copied, so I could do it again. And the second experience, I was not able to reproduce the same thing. And it's here that I needed, not only that I question my project, but also question myself as an entrepreneur. And when I look at reality, when I stare at reality, is it the mistake, the error of the environment, or is it my own mistake? Of course, we can talk about problems, developing, financing companies, but the reality is in the entrepreneur himself and in his profile. So I needed to be convinced of this failure to create the third and now the fourth company. Today, I am the founder of a technological company, Business Process 212, and we are the suggestor. And again, here the process was very long, and one of the values that I learned from my first success was patience. You need to be patient. We cannot succeed to change the environment, so we have to adapt ourselves to this environment in order to develop these companies. Thank you very much. Karl. I'm going to speak French, okay? Can I? MTDS, you are at the origin of all we're doing now in Morocco with the internet, because the first was installed by the MTDS at Al Khawan University. And without this, we wouldn't be where we are now to talk about e-commerce and e-business. Is innovation, Jean, or the new technologies in new geographical regions, is innovation at the heart of your concern? And is it a quality that the young entrepreneurs in Morocco have, or entrepreneurs in general? I think I share the same idea as everybody else. And there's nothing missing in here. I do not agree with the bankers. Nothing is missing. We have everything. Money, sun. The proof is that I am an American. Yeah, go ahead. I am an American from San Diego, and every time we see me, oh, San Diego is a beautiful place. Why are you here? Because I don't know what to answer. I like it, and I think somewhere we are seeing when qu'est-ce que vous avez dit? One of the criteria to be a good entrepreneur is that you do not follow the rest first. So you're strong-headed, you don't have patience, and I'm sure that the new entrepreneurs in Morocco are not with us today. I'm sure they're not. This is not very nice for the ones we have. And we have a culture, a bit European culture, the old culture. So you finish, you complete your education, you have a scholarship, so you do your degree, and then you have another. When I finished my scholarship, now I want a donation to start my project. Come on, education has already been given to you for free. Now it's up to you, as the colleague said, it's up to you to analyze and criticize. And as like the other said about the Silicon Valley, when there is friction, that's an opportunity. When something is not working, an entrepreneur sees an opportunity. It is not tired. So because in my office, people tell me, because we work with the state and the operators, so they tell me it's very difficult here. I say, okay, if it were not difficult, we wouldn't have work. We are here to do things that other people do not want to do, okay? So you cannot complain that that's your next company. I'm quite sure that I share this with the rest of the panelists. I'm not going to talk the whole day, and I'd like to thank Mr. Wawisha, Mr. Mokhtari, and Mr. AOUFIR were responsible for the good continuation of MTDS. So these are people that I met 20-something years ago, and I understood everything. I understood that there's everything here. You have people, they know how to work, and all you need to do is not to wait for the government or the banks. Like the bankers said, a banker, you give him 1 billion dirhams. So which one do you prefer? He's going to take the money and not the companies. As he said, it's not their mistake. That depends. So I believe the message that I want to send is it's possible everywhere. There are no borders. It's a matter of analysis. You're here. You're experts in something. So just see what does not work, and lots of things do not work. I quite agree with that. So there are so many opportunities for entrepreneurship.
Alors, je vais passer à une...
Now I move to an icon because Kamal is...
It's a very well-known Moroccan company that is present on all billboards. So Kamal, what is the conclusion of your experience? And let's talk about the Moroccan market. Is this market big enough, important enough to enable the development of lots of companies at the same time? Or do you have to compete with lots of competitors and only one will emerge because the market is not big enough? Or do you have any other kind of strategies? Can I answer in English then?
I am the founder of Hmizate.ma, which is an e-commerce site that started back in 2011. I spent many years in the US before coming back to Morocco to start my own company. So over the past few years, what I noticed in Morocco, as Moroccans, we have entrepreneurship in our DNA. But there is something that pushes us away, which is the fear and how people would see us if we fail. So that's the biggest issue for stopping people from going into entrepreneurship, and that's what's stopping a lot of the potential entrepreneurs. Another thing related to fear is that people are afraid to try new things. For example, like in e-commerce, I remember it all started in 2011. Before that, nobody was using the internet to buy anything. And as soon as we started, I remember a few months afterwards, we were about 35 sites doing the same exact thing, running after the same partners, same customers, whereas in e-commerce, it's a huge sector. I mean, there are many verticals where one can concentrate and benefit from from having the first mover advantage in that vector. So that is what I've seen so far, and that is something that has to change. I think as an entrepreneur, I mean, you should care less about what people think of you. If you fail, if you make it, it doesn't really matter. It shouldn't be the major driver on your day-to-day business. So basically, if you have an idea, just go try it. If you fail, that's fine. You can try another thing. And the worst thing is that if you never try and then you keep blaming yourself for keeping those ideas to yourself and then seeing other people doing it and succeed. So that is that's what I noticed over the past few years. And to answer your second question about the market, sure, the market is really small. I mean, when we compare to the US and Europe, but people need to be patient. If you come into e-commerce and if you're looking to make money, that's not the best. That's not the best business. I mean, e-commerce is new. I mean, if you come in right now, you benefit from the being the first companies to join to get into this business. But in the future, it will pay off. I mean, if you look at the stats, there are about over the third of Moroccans have a bank account with a bank card. They can use it to buy online. But when you look at the online transactions, only about 200,000 people made a purchase online in 2013. That's not a lot. So the opportunity is massive. Like, if it's a question of time. So, I mean, if you're in this business, and I mean, you should persevere. You should try to survive, and you should push as hard as you can to make it through the next few years, and then the market will, of course, grow, and of course, there are many opportunities out there. I mean, we cannot just focus in Morocco. I mean, if we can capitalize on our relationships with the other African countries. I mean, if you look at the banks, they already have established relationships with other banks or have offices in place in Africa. That's a great thing. I mean, that makes it easier for you to expand there and not be and you wouldn't have like a market size constraint. I mean, there are many countries where you can go, where you can build. So it's just a matter of passion and perseverance, and keep pushing until.
Ok, merci Kamal.
Merci.
Et donc, c'est le.
Thank you very much, Kamal. Mr. AOUFIR, your strategy was to go towards those international markets, and this, I think it's the biggest part of your turnover. But for all these young entrepreneurs who would like, since the beginning, to get into the global market, what would be your advice? If you want to explain something that was key for all those businesses who have succeeded, I mean, we are in a very specific business, in the offshoring business, where international customers come to see us in order to provide services, remote, let's say kind of remote services provision. And one of the key factors that has enabled us to differentiate with others was the differentiation as such. We were a company just as many others. There were hundreds of call centers springing out in Morocco with small accounts, big accounts, and we have implemented what was said by one of the speakers before, the research for disruption, this thing that will smash past models, and we did that in an immoral way somehow. We were not providing standard services based on cost, based on the lowest cost. No. We wanted to innovate in our way of functioning, in our value proposal provided to our customers. And that's how we've been seen as a company doing something much more customized compared to other companies. We've done this with one company, later on with Google, and that's how we became different in the market. That's how we also have grown, and we became visible for a great order providers, and that's how we became bigger. But of course, we're obviously in an international market. Our customers are international customers compared to other of my friends here who suffer from the small size of the Moroccan market. We are in the international global market. But if you want to win, of course, you've got to be brave enough. You've got to go for it. You have to be ready to challenge existing models, to come up with new models. You should not be afraid of thinking different. We have acquired a company that only had one customer. Everybody said, if they lose that customer, this company will shut its doors. And we've done that. And we have succeeded in using this opportunity to become even more bigger. Then we went to France. When lots of companies were fleeing from France, people would say, but we are crazy, what are they doing? But actually, financially speaking, maybe it was not a very interesting operation, but we actually got new markets. We became known amongst other people. That has enabled us to develop new activities, and we became a strong player with a size that is can be comparable to any other player in that sector. So very often those choices are risky, but if you make no risky choice, if you make no decision of that kind, then there is no differentiation. I think this is one of the key factors of success. That's what you said before. Of course it's difficult, but if you're not looking for what is difficult, then you won't build anything. If you're going to do what others have done already, then you're bringing no added value in the market. There is no new proposal and no reason to exist somehow.
Back to something important, that's the disruptive side, which necessitates a change in the mindset. I think Mr. Tarafa talked about this. Now, the question is for Mr. Mokhtari and Karl, today, to be in the mindset of entrepreneurship and to have this desire to create value of disruption, the ecosystem is today favorable. This is the question number one. And second, the smart capital. Do you think today that mentoring and coaching and smart capital do exist in Morocco, and can they help the Moroccans to develop their Silicon Valley, their African Silicon Valley? The first question is important because when I created this company in 2007, we decided to introduce not only a tool of management of companies, so there is a major rupture. The second thing, we told our customers that the tools you know and the methods that you know, just throw them away. We have invented something new. So we were breaking away, if you like, from the habitual practice. And we also said we are in an environment, in a milieu where management methods are very traditional and very basic and classic. And with all these changes, maybe it's going to be difficult to penetrate the market. At that moment, we became aware that the Moroccan market is the same as elsewhere, except for its size, which is smaller. So the first companies to adopt these new technology and new methodology, which are part of this dynamic, so they needed to be identified. That's what we did. We identified them. The concern that we had is between the moment we identified the customer that worked with these tools to create the rupture, and the followers, the time was important for them. So we needed to give time to the experience to mature in order to convince other companies. Today, this has become, at least for us, less problematic. And the managers of the companies, of PMEs, what happened is that during this period, we needed to have the resources in order to stay on our feet. And this is the difficulty. Are we strong enough to resist long enough so that things work? And this is where financing comes in. But financing or funding is not the ultimate objective. It's the market instead. So we need to find this market that will allow the company to continue to work and resist when it tries to break away from traditional ways of doing things. Just to come back to my question, at the moment of these difficulties, did you need some coaching and advice? So did anybody help you? And do you think that this is something very important for new entrepreneurs? Since 1 year now, I'm a member of a network that is called SID, which helps the entrepreneurs. We have about 150 members, and we help entrepreneurs in their phases of growth. So in this organization, in fact, one of the important elements of this organization is mentoring. So when I came, they said, listen, with your experience and your companies and all you did, it's going to be very hard to find someone who is going to be able to help you. And that's where you need to be humble. I knew what the problem was, what my problem was. So I asked for help and assistance, and the mentor is not an entrepreneur, has never created a company, and is not in the entrepreneurship, but is a specialist of the problems that we talked about. And this allowed me, in a few months, to move from one level of my company to another, which means that this experience works, but that the mentoring and coaching do exist. So you just need to seek them. So this is much more important than the capital, because this growth at its second level, is it going to be funded and financed by loans from the banks or any other way? So with this, by changing, we were able to fund with our own resources. That's what we did. Karl?
I think I agree almost exactly with Mr. Mokhtari. Destruction, what did you call it? Creative destruction or whatever, yeah. Disruption, yeah. I mean, it happens all the time. We've all seen it. Just in the last 20 years as a host of your beautiful country, I've watched the revenues of SMS go from hundreds of millions of euros to almost zero. You know, that's one of those examples. We can all think of a bunch of them. That exists here, and I think it's pretty much on the same trend as everywhere in the world. In terms of smart capital, I guess if I was a bank and I was giving out money, I would make sure that they had suivi with smart capital. But I don't think any of us in our individual situations would have gone to that. I agree more with Adil in the sense that you know what your problem is. A good arrogant manager knows what he doesn't know and goes and finds out before embarrassing himself. But an across-the-board palette of smart services that are put together to help entrepreneurs, I think you'd probably spend more time speaking. The smart planners and the entrepreneurs would probably spend all their day trying to understand each other before getting the project. So I would more say that it would be more specific, and each individual business has its own needs. I mean, there are some standard ones like accounting and things like that, but it's all the innovation. It's all the stuff that hasn't been done before, and that's why you can't really go buy your self-help.
Okay. We see.
Si vous permettez, je voudrais témoigner de...
Allow me, I would like to talk about two projects, innovating projects that we... If you can show the slides, project the slides, please. It's about two young people. The first is Rashid. Is the son of a farmer in Algara who graduated in history and geography, couldn't find a job, and then went into a company to work in Saudi Arabia for 6 or 7 years, and then he was called back by his own country, and then worked instead of his father and innovated the system of production, and also through germination. And he keeps them for 7 days, then gives that food to the cows, and the price is only 50%. And when we did research, that's hydroponic agriculture. The second, can you show the pictures, please? The second, this is the first one, Rashid. The second is called Rida. He graduated in physics and chemistry, and he worked for a microfinancing association, and he worked for 4 years, and then decided to come back, and he started the initiatives of bio vegetables. And the first customers were the foreigners plus the diplomats, and today they produce between 100 and 100 tons a week. So from 9 kilograms to 90 to 15 kilograms. And if you ask one, you will be the 600th in the list, waiting list. So this is the first experience in what is called short circuits of commercialization with the added value, where the margin goes to the farmer and not to... So these are two projects that we did select this year at the level of Crédit Agricole. So this shows what we were saying at the beginning, that in Morocco we have we're prepared for entrepreneurship. But if we come back to kind of entrepreneurs, which today has yielded regional champions who can impose themselves internationally, these companies have an experience of 20 to 30 years. How in Morocco we were able to create these champions? And is there a story to retain? And the startups today, can we imagine that in 10 years, 20, 30 years, we will have other champions, national champions at this level? Absolutely, but I would like to seize the opportunity, because there's a trend in the debate to say that everything is there, all the conditions are available, and we want to be entrepreneurs. All you have to do is go for it. This is something where that people who come from countries where the culture of entrepreneurship is popular. We are in a country where this culture is not that known, and the culture of entrepreneurship and the spirit is still within only part of the elite. So I'm lucky to be a banker, and I see young people, and I attend commissions or committees for loans and evaluation, and I'm also in contact with the elite, and I can say very clearly that up to today, entrepreneurship, the youth who are not are not part of the Moroccan elite. And some of them believe that the Moroccan elite is inaccessible. So we need to work more to open up to these people who will replace us, who will be in charge of the Moroccan economy. So this is very important, and this is not enough explained and anchored in the minds of the people. Unfortunately, it's the intervention of all these stakeholders as well as the state, and before this becomes very popular and democratic and not only be the characteristic of only a limited group of people, we also have lessons to learn from this. I was going to give the example of Mokawalati, my company, which is a good initiative, which we're forgetting today because it was a failure, when we need to learn from our failures, because in our diagnosis we estimated that our funding was very vital for all entrepreneurs. So we put in place a funding system for the graduates who do their vocational training, and we say, so they took the money, they didn't know what to do with it. So one thing is that they bought the most posh cars. So when they had to pay installments, they had no money left. So we have problems with this program when it was a good thing. So what was missing was mentoring and coaching and assistance. Maybe all the ideas were not good, but I'm quite sure that part of those ideas, if they were better supervised and better followed up, they would have given companies that would be growing today. To answer your question, yes, there is a path today in Morocco, and Tijari Wafa Bank is an example. In Africa, we have an example of a company that we helped, we assisted in Africa, that helped us to install our agencies. And we have small companies of all sizes around us that help us. And when we opened in many countries, agencies in many countries with the same program, we gave small companies business to build those agencies. And these became PME, and now they're growing and restructuring later. They started to look for things themselves, to go to other countries we would not. So this is a means for major companies to help the small ones. Another project on which we're working now with the ministry and the NPE, that is that our ecosystems between big companies, whether state or private companies, are not connected to their own suppliers. They deal with them in a way, whether they're small or big, in such a way that they cannot manage to make any gains for development. And now we are working with these companies to try to change the algorithm, to say, so these people supply us, and they have to be competitive, but they can be competitive if I integrate them in my world and give them all the elements and the means to work and guarantee them a continuity of the service without any rupture or any tensions in the relations, and I help them to grow. And if I have international markets, I can give them the opportunity to express themselves. So this way of doing things, where everybody is positive, but this gives people opportunities to express themselves and develop in a serene way the entrepreneurs that I talked about. Why is it they're doing the informal? Because they do not have the possibility to express themselves in the formal. Because of they're not integrated, and they're not. So we need to work more. We have a magnificent spirit of entrepreneurship, but that's not enough. It's far from being enough, and to absorb all the requests at the level of the job market every year. So we need to be more proactive in this domain.
Alors, Kamal, moi j'avais.
Kamal, I had the feeling that there was a real movida of the Moroccan entrepreneurship, that there was a real move, that there's something that is going to happen very soon. I've been meeting lots of young people. Everyone is starting, let's say, companies. There are competitions organized by entities. I have the feeling that we are ready in Morocco, but at the same time, it's not true at the same time. So what is the exact situation? So are we not ready, or are we almost at it? So you are in it. What do you think about that?
So many things happen. Like on the first year, basically there was no group or nothing you can join to discuss this kind of things. But over 3 years, there are about 3 non-profit organizations that you can join and meet entrepreneurs. For example, you have the Startup Your Life, which is a great group where you can meet similar people just like you, people who want to become entrepreneurs, experts in some fields, legal experts, finance experts who can help out. And the great thing is that all people are there to give, and they don't think about taking back. So everyone is trying to give, build an ecosystem, and it's a great group. Like for anybody trying to build something or become an entrepreneur, I suggest you join that. There is also a New York Lab, which is a new concept that allows you to, it's basically a co-working space. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, you don't have to think about renting an office and finding similar people just like you. So basically you can go there, rent by the day, half a day by the hour, and at the same time you get to meet other people just like you, and same level or better, or people just starting. And also, I mean, as soon as you manage to get traction, there is Endeavor, which is a great non-profit organization. I didn't know Endeavor before, and when I first met them, I kept thinking to myself, okay, what do they want back? So, but it's just amazing, like how Moroccans are trying to help out in everywhere they can, and they're putting too much efforts, too much work into building smart and good entrepreneurs. So they're giving a lot to the community, and it's definitely great. I mean, these things in 2011, I don't recall seeing any of them. But now, I mean, we have the advantage to, so for example, in 2011, if I had a problem, I would be stuck thinking about it by myself, or contact a friend in the US and then try to exchange ideas. But now, if I have a problem, I know where to call. I can go to Endeavor, I can go to Startup Your Life. If I need to hire someone, I just throw a word at Startup Your Life. They manage to pass the info or recommend someone. Basically, we just hired someone recently, a managing director for a new project that we're launching via Startup Your Life, which is great. So yeah, I encourage anybody who's thinking about entrepreneurship to join these groups.
Merci. On va donner la parole à la salle.
Shall now give the floor to the audience for your questions. I see lots of questions coming.
It's okay if I speak in English?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm Hmizate.ma from Akhawa University. I have been working for the past 6 months on tools, innovative tools to reach the student market. And while I was hearing to you, I noticed something which is, I think, kind of obvious, is the fact that students probably are not enough involved into the process of encouraging entrepreneurship. I mean, you are all great people with power, with network, but you're still human beings. So you can't do everything. Maybe I have seen a project that is run, actually, it's called Ingest, and the problem is it's actually state-helped. It has a lot of partners, but still lacking some major tools that if students were involved in, would have shown it, which is mentoring. So what I may suggest from here, and with the presence of great people, and also by asking your opinion, is why don't you help creating an association like what is done for women that actually help the student from the beginning, giving him like the right tools for building his business plan, his marketing plan, and then mentor him following a list of advisors, and then also help him toward banks, because it's generally that problem that students face, is like they don't have the funds. So this association, I would like to have your opinion about it, because maybe after this GS, I can personally go out and create it if I'm sure that I can find the support for it.
Sorry, you walked right into that one. You're looking, it sounds like you don't even want to take a risk. you don't want to start it unless you're sure to find financing. Ça, c'est pas un entrepreneur, ça.
This is not an entrepreneur being an entrepreneur, but I understand what you mean. An entrepreneur, of course, is not volunteering. There are social entrepreneurs, as the ONG Endeavor has, that I fully respect, and I'm sure that we'll see them very much present in the future. But you know, we all have tens of thousands of employees who graduated from schools such as you, but that we have to train on a daily basis, every hour, every minute. So thinking that with our means we can run such an organization, of course, it's beyond our reach. And maybe there's a big difference between concretely doing things and, of course, running these discussions here. I'd like to bring this clarification. In Morocco, we have an entrepreneur's value chain that now is almost fully complete. We are, of course, at an early stage, but there are a few organizations that we can commend here. And there are lots of lessons learned already. And today, in the world of education, we start talking about entrepreneurship much earlier, such as with INJES. And then in the engineers schools, you have an association called GENI that also promotes entrepreneurship. So this is about the education world. Now we have also the entrepreneurial education, the IDHE, proof of concept. This is the early stage of an idea. And now we have government foundations, startup weekends, startup, etc. And then with at the level of side funding, the first customer, you have the network Entreprendre, which is also part of the value chain. And then you have Seed, which will target growth, and then Endeavor doing the scale-up. So I think that in Morocco, we already have lots of entities created. So if you look properly, I think that you can have access to this smart capital in Morocco. And quite efficiently, because lots of people are volunteering and sharing their views. Maybe what is missing is communication. But there's lots of things being done thanks to volunteers. And believe me, they are not paid. And maybe this is one of the takeaways of today. And you can find those people here at the Village of Innovation. I'm sure they can help you.
For that, I would like to thank you all for sharing your success stories with us. It impresses us really. I have a question to Mr. REGGAD. I know that what you do is new here in Morocco. I know that the market is small, but I would like to know exactly how competitive the Moroccan market is for your enterprise, and what does Hmizate.ma do exactly to survive this competition?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question, but is it about competition? Is
yes.
That, okay.
How competitive the market is for your Hmizate.ma?
I mean, the market is very, there is a lot of competition, but a lot of people ask me that in a way that it's a threat or something, but not, it's not. I mean, before in 2011 to 2012, we were the only ones, or with the few other sites, trying to educate the market. Because, as I said, e-commerce did not exist before, so as soon as we came on board, so basically the first thing that you need to do is that educate the market. So it's not as easy as just placing ads and then expect people to come and buy. You need to educate them about security of paying online, about you need to reassure them, and you need to explain how everything works. So before we were doing, and that's costly. So that's costly, I mean, in terms of human resources and in terms of investment in online marketing. So basically your cost of acquisition goes up really high because you don't convert new clients easily as the US and other countries. So basically, when you have competition and serious competition, that's definitely a great thing because they're educating the market with you, and then maybe people will buy the first time from my competition, but the second time they might try Hmizate or HMAL without having us to explain everything to them. So that's definitely a good thing. I mean, you need competition to grow a market and build an ecosystem. So yeah, I mean, and after that, it's up to the site or the company how they manage to make their clients loyal. So loyalty stays up to the companies, how they do that. And I mean, luckily for us, we pay strong attention to our customers. I mean, we want them to come back. We don't want to keep looking for new customers. We want our customers to come back, spend more, and trust us and everything. And I think over the past 3 years, and we managed to do a great job. If we look at Hmizate numbers, our repeat customers represent 75% of our revenues, and that's great. That says something that customers, they like us, they've tried us, and they were satisfied, and they're coming back. So that's a great investment. So I mean, I could spend more money and not worry or not pay attention to customer loyalty, and lose to someone who's spending much less than me. Cool. I hope that answered your question.
Okay. Well, one of our
One hour of our constraints is time, so this is going to be the last question, and then we'll wrap up. And thank you, and then thank the panelists. Now the floor is to the person who wants to ask the question, Farajdin Fathi, graduate from the Master of Hassan, the second in Casablanca. My question is about a good entrepreneur. Don't you think that a good entrepreneur is someone who has a good network before he starts? So he needs to develop that network in order to do business. My second question, don't you think that a good entrepreneur is someone who focuses on the job instead of other things on which is going to work, like counting data? This is the question. I'm going to say yes, and this is luxury. Yes, you need a network to be an entrepreneur. You need to be well connected. You need to have relations with people, which is going to serve for you, which is going to be useful for you as an entrepreneur. This is something that you develop intelligently. The first thing to do is to get out of your own isolation as an entrepreneur. You need to get in touch with the same people at the same level and the same situation, and then develop empathy for the others, because I see people who want to develop networks through business cards, and they do their pitch immediately. Say, I'm going to sell you this, this, and that. This is not how things work. You need empathy, because it's through the network that you will have the customers and not the customers himself. So to develop a network is extremely important, which leads me to the first question that Karl answered. It was about the civil society and NGOs. What is extraordinary in Morocco is that we have a civil society that is well developed, and organizations where we can have interesting meetings, and the development of the network can be learned. We can learn it. I was not good at that. I did not know how to develop these relations with people. When I decided that my business card is going to stay in my pocket and not try to sell anything to anybody I see, and then I was interested in the others, and I developed a genuine network. This is where things started to work well. Concerning your second question, about the entrepreneurs and their focus. This is a luxury once again. Let's be honest about it. Entrepreneurs have to do things themselves, and you have to do things that your own employees do not know how to do them. So if, unless you are very rich, and then you have other concerns, how to manage that money. So you will always have something else to do. Thank you, Mr. Adil. So 2 minutes. So we asked questions. Is there a typical profile of a Moroccan entrepreneur? And we said, yes, we do have Moroccan entrepreneurs, but they should have the same qualities as the other entrepreneurs in the world. All we need to do is to be careful, is not to take seriously the criticisms and not fear failure. And we described what an entrepreneur in Morocco should be. He must be brave, daring, risk-taking, and create models of disruption. And also, they need to have a culture, as Mr. Badet said. So this entrepreneur is in the process of developing himself. So we have the raw material, and there is an ecosystem that is being created, a number of initiatives, and the Treasury of a bank mentioned some of them. And we also have icons today and models, people who can show that the Moroccan entrepreneur, if he takes things seriously, will succeed. And I think also one last question is, do the universities have a role to play to develop these entrepreneurs? Will Al Akhawain be the first university to do that? And the origin of the Moroccan Silicon Valley, we need to work and not stop Friday, but this is the beginning of a long story, and I hope that it's going to be successful. Thank you very much indeed. It was short but very intense. Thank you.